Hello, welcome to the first podcast for Evil Pig Productions. I am the lead designer, Jonathan Moore.
I'm the lead artist, Megan.
I'm the lead graphic designer, Natalie.
Now, we only have 3 patrons right now that are donating $20. Thank you, by the way. But that makes it so that tiebreakers have to be a deal that we have to actually figure out. So we decided to go ahead and choose the rules and how they developed for Primus Star for our first podcast. Now, you two weren't actually there during the beginning because I developed these rules way back in middle school. I think I was about 15 years old whenever that started. They were non-existent. It was basically just an idea that I had, and you had to roll a d20, and anything went. It was terrible. They actually were able to play a little while after.
Yeah, we got the better version.
Yeah, we had rules. Like, not the same rules, but we had rules.
The socialite was overpowered, as Natalie can attest.
I loved it. Like, I like being overpowered, so, like, I wasn't complaining or anything. I never used any sort of weapon. I just sat there and let everyone do the work for me. It was great.
She turned an entire mafia against each other because one of them fell in love with her.
And it was so overpowered that she was using it on player characters, so...
Oh, God. One of the player characters, Zach, he, I feel for him because he had to do everything that she was saying. But that's fixed now. The socialite can no longer do the game-breaking stuff that the socialite was once able to do.
Which, in my opinion, I don't know if that's a plot. No, I'm kidding.
Alright, so I think that should bring us to what you changed with the feats, with rules and feats and stuff like that.
For the features?
Yeah.
Yeah, back then there were only exclusive feats. To describe the feats a little bit, they're a little bit different than other RPGs. For the first level, you get an exclusive feat, which is based off of your race and class option and how they mesh together. And then you get one regular feat that you can choose from. Exclusive feats could be something like a bonus to crafting time and things like that. But back then there were only exclusive feats. That changed, I think, whenever you guys were playing, though. Were there feats?
There were feats.
There were a few feats, yeah.
Yeah, but they were like barely any, though, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
because Charles, he actually complained about that, how he got to higher levels and there was basically nothing that he wanted to actually do.
And then you had to add a feat to combat her socialite.
Yeah, antisocial feat. Because socialite, I mean, even after that, socialite was still pretty much overpowered.
Yeah.
But I had to...
I think socialites should be able to take the antisocial feats. I'm just saying.
No, because then it would mean that the socialite is just breaking the game again. And also doesn't make sense for a socialite to be antisocial.
I don't think I'm biased, but...
There are plenty of other things that a socialite can do.
No,
I mean, the socialite is still viable.
That's why it's my favorite.
I'm surprised that it's not really that many other people's favorite, actually. Because I think... No, that's a lie. The most recent session that I was running for testing, there were 2 socialites. One person was very interesting. He decided to go with a socialite, and he got a feat in the game to train himself to use heavy weapons, and he only used heavy weapons. So it was a socialite armed with an antimatter rifle going around. But the thing was, he had low dexterity, so he couldn't hit anything. So he just had this huge weapon with all this ammunition, but he could never actually damage anyone.
Well, he felt powerful, that's all.
It was a compensating thing. I believe his race, it was a Geisling. So he was a Geisling socialite, the bug race.
Do the Geislings have, like, are they strength-based, or...?
They're strength and constitution based.
Okay.
They aren't supposed to touch socialite or anything like that at all. But he did. Yeah,
well,
that's
why he couldn't hit anything.
Yeah.
Socialites probably aren't the best fighters, and
no, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not meant to be.
So,
they're meant to try and solve everything through talking.
So he was a tank, like, talker person.
Well, he was trying to be a TPS socialite.
He wasn't doing a very good job.
No, he was not. He never hit anyone.
But it's okay, because you could build the character however you want, and it takes a lot of experimenting, like with most games, to figure out what the best builds are. But it's all about your imagination, and that's what makes the game fun.
Yeah, no one's gonna stop you from playing races that don't match up with classes because that just sucks.
That makes me think we were actually testing a future development for Primus Star, a expanded universe of sorts. It's supposed to be a separate book. I don't know when that'll actually be released, but that's going to be far in the future. But there was one race that we were testing, and they aren't supposed to be a tanky kind of race at all. They are actually supposed to be sort of like a socialite race.
Mm-hmm.
But one person decided to make that race a tank. The only problem is that they can only move, like 2 squares per turn?
Yeah, I remember that.
Or per action. So any time that they actually got to the battle was already done. So they could never protect anybody until the end. Till the end, they actually were able to get to the battle in time because the combatants were super strong and their team couldn't actually take care of them by themselves. But he got there and he protected them by dying.
He probably should have had his team help him out a bit more, maybe.
No, the team was there, but...
Well, I mean, not with the death. I mean, at the movement thing, they probably could have moved a little slower.
They were trying to develop a tactic where they would carry him to places, but that only took them so far. So they decided to stop after a while.
You need to get like a special mechanical thing to carry him.
A scientist to build a mechanical...
Give him like a hoverboard or something.
They should have invented that.
In fact, speaking of this, I don't know why we didn't even talk about this, but the different classes in our game. Primus Star, it has the soldier. That's the basic kind of DPS class. It's the... I guess you could call it the noob class. It has everything that you would need in the tabletop setting. We have the mercenary. That's a more, I guess, what would the word be? It's a more detailed soldier.
Okay.
Okay, then. Well, it looks like I'm all alone for this podcast. Hello, welcome back to the Jonathan podcast.
We never played mercenaries.
I've never played a mercenary. I
mean,
played a rogue.
I believe that there in total was 2 people, actually, who played as the mercenary, now that I think about it. I don't know why. I mean, mercenaries are a good class.
It's just not my type of character.
Yeah.
Well, they focus on rifles and shooting, and that's basically it.
When I think of mercenary, I just think of stronger warrior or sort of like barbarian sort of thing. So.
Well, that's what they are. It's this. The soldier, like I said, is the all-around class. It's like, hey, this is a new game. You want to test it out. You want to be a soldier, and that's just where you start off. You'll probably die, unless you're a really good soldier, because you can do that. You can be a really good soldier. But a mercenary is more focused on, hey, I don't talk, I don't do any of that. I just aim my gun and shoot, and I can deal with athletic problems and things like that. Anything that requires brawn, not
You
brain.
like being the tough guy, not so much the smart guy.
Yeah. We also have the rogue, a classic addition to any RPG. They are meant to be sneaky and just go around and, I mean, you could steal things, I suppose.
Well,
if you wanted to.
Isn't it kind of cool because with your feat system, right? Anyone can take the sneak attack perk.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's the that is actually a feat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody can take the sneak attack perk. You just have to meet the level requirements. So you could actually be a soldier that can sneak attack. So you could be a sneaky soldier if you wanted to be. The only benefit with being any of the classes, we'll actually get to this after we talk about the classes, is the powers and abilities for each class. Because they're all different. Some of them, they cross over to other classes, but a lot of them, they have their own set class. And some of them don't even get to higher levels unless you have that specific class. But moving on, we have also a engineer, sort of like a rogue, only they're more focused on the mechanical side of things. Because engineer, they can still be sneaky. They're still based off of dexterity.
Yeah.
And things like that.
I just imagine them, I guess, in the back making things. So.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they're sneaky. They're always in the back. You never see them. They're just back there doing their thing. But one cool thing about them is, with actually a power and ability, is that they can create a drone that fights for them. So while you're back there making your thing, you can have your drone going back up into front lines and fight off the enemies for you.
And they control the drone, right?
Yeah, they control the drone. The drone, I can't remember the exact, I guess, stats for the drone, but I think that they have the same health as their intelligence mod, not mod, but the score. I can't remember exactly, but The thing is, you can create drones.
And you'd send them out to fight for you and create more drones while they're fighting, so.
Yeah. Yeah, you can create... This makes me think also of Zach. Whenever he wasn't an engineer, but for our next class, the scientist, that focuses on actually creating new things that aren't in-game. So you can create, like, teleporters or mind control devices. Or in the case of Zach, a spacecraft that hovers above a planet and sends down plagues on the planet to destroy all creatures.
We would say the name of it, but it's not very appropriate.
His name, though, was Brainzilla.
Yeah.
And I did not like that character. It was a funny character, but he wanted to break the game so much.
He was really challenging you as a DM.
Yes, he was. I think he would challenge anyone as a DM. But that's the scientist class. They can create things at a later level. I believe the earliest level you can get the feat to actually start to create things that aren't in game yet is at level 6. I believe that was the level that you have to be at. I'm pretty sure, because there are 3 upgrades packs that you can use that you can get to use better materials. And level, I'm pretty sure it's level 6 for the scientists to start making new things. Beyond that, there is the socialite, one class that we've been talking about a lot actually in recent times. That class, like we were saying, does not focus on combat, not really at all. They focus on talking their way out of situations. They're excellent for parties. If you're ever going into a place where you need information, socialite is your best bet, I would say. Either that or a rogue if you just want to steal the information off of something.
Or you could just do a socialite rogue.
Yeah, multi-classing. That could always work. Socialite rogue, be the face.
That's what I like.
That's a classic option in RPGs. What have we gone over? We've gone over the soldier, mercenary, the scientist, the rogue, the engineer.
Biotic. We haven't done the
socialite,
biotic yet.
And the biotic. That is the last class. Biotic is another kind of noob class, if you wanted to be them. But they are more of the mystical kind of noob class. Now, whenever I say mystical, I don't mean magic, because there's not really any magic in the game, but I mean that they use technology to create things in the real world.
So when you say the noob class, do you mean they're just easier to play as?
They're easy to play as, because
like
they're more focused on several different things instead of just, I guess, a narrow focus on one.
Oh, so they're more well-rounded.
Yeah.
So, like, you could go in and you could talk to people, but you could also combat. Is that...
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to figure out what noob meant to you.
Well, I would imagine, hopefully, noob means that kind of thing to everyone, but I can understand why I would need to figure that one out. But those are the classes in the game. Races are something completely different. We probably won't talk about the races in this.
Except we should talk about the languages, because we had that was a rule we had to change after talking to someone who has his own game store, but it really changed a lot about the game once we figured this out.
One of the playtesters, he said that the one thing that I didn't like in sci-fi was most of the time whenever people went out into space, everyone could speak the same language, even though there would be clearly a language barrier between them. Also, we decided to get rid of the common language, as you would see in other RPGs, and elect for a more, I guess, diverse approach.
Well, I feel like for other RPGs, especially fantasy ones, it makes sense because they all take place on one planet except for different planes. But for this, it's freaking planets, universes apart. So obviously, not every race is gonna know English or whatever language that every race knows.
Yeah, they're all going to be different. Even if you are the same race, you could actually speak entirely different languages, because each race has 3 different languages, except for Rezzer. Rezzer is a robotic race. They only know one, and that is Rezzer. Aptly named.
It just kind of sucks because, like, with my character, I came in, I only knew the one language. I had no money, because you could buy some translators, right? So that your character knows all the languages, or at least can understand them, not really knows them. But, I couldn't afford that, so I'm just sitting in the back room watching hand gestures, like, I know what these weirdos in my party are thinking.
That is one thing to break the sound barrier. I guess sound barrier is that what we would call it?
Language barrier.
Language barrier. There we go. Break the sound barrier by going Mach 5. But breaking the language barrier, you could just speak sign language. Not really speak, but use sign language.
Yeah, use your hands.
Because that's one language that actually goes beyond the other races. Because there's one race, the Geisling, that can't actually speak.
Yeah, they don't have any words. They just, because they're an insect race, they just use pheromones to talk to each other. Because in real life, most insects don't use words to talk to each other. They use smells.
Smells, pheromones, weird clicking noises sometimes.
So the only way to really be able to understand them would be to get one of those translators?
Or unless they
sign language.
Sign language,
They can sign?
Yeah, they have hands.
Okay.
Yeah, they can still sign because they have the little things to use the tools. Because, if the race couldn't use tools, they couldn't really get that far.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. A psychic race without any hands that just floats there could probably do things.
Yeah.
Do we have any of those?
Not yet.
Not in this.
Might be
in the
a
core rule book.
consideration, though.
Possibly a psychic race without any hands just floating there could be a thing that we could do.
Okay, let's talk about trained skills. How that, like in wisdom modifiers and stuff like that.
Okay then. Yeah. With back then there weren't very many skills. In the very, very beginning, there weren't any skills at all. Like I said, it was just a kind of roll and go with the flow kind of thing. But with you guys, I don't think that there were as many skills as there were back then as there are now.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember it
I feel
either.
as if they were more grouped up whenever you guys were playing.
Maybe either that there are more, and then we group some up to, make it more simple.
I don't remember there being that many. Like,
I don't remember.
as a socialite and someone looking at skills,
God, it feels
I don't
like it's been
remember
so
that
long
many.
ago too.
Yeah, it was. Like, it's come a long way.
It's been a few years since we played the alpha version.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I came up with the idea too. God, that first concept was horrible. But I got the idea across.
You have to start with a horrible idea to get to a good one. I think you do.
I don't know if that's.
You have to at least go through some. Like, maybe your first idea is a good idea, right? But you wouldn't know that without coming up with another horrible idea.
Okay, maybe.
But for skills, I feel like in other RPGs, I felt like the wisdom modifier was useless, other than a few skills and then your will save. But I'm just like, other than that, what does it do? It just adds skill points and then has a will save, but that's it. So I told that to Jonathan, and he changed some things with the wisdom modifier.
Yeah, I made it so now that the wisdom modifier actually dictates how many trained skills you have. It's no longer based off of your class or anything. It's based off your wisdom modifier. And how many points you get to your trained skills each level is actually based off your wisdom modifier as well. So let's say you have a wisdom modifier of, in the beginning, a 3. So you get 3 trained skills, and then at level 2, you get a +3 in all those trained skills. Then so on. For each level, you get a +3 each time until you upgrade your wisdom modifier.
And that's kind of cool because it's intelligence, right, that gives you the points to skills.
The skill ranks, the skill points.
So you get to decide whether you want to focus more on intelligence or wisdom, and it's kind of cool because you could get really high skills with both of them, just in different ways.
Yeah. It all depends on what kind of mind you have, your character has. You have anything else to add to that, Megan? Because I know that was one thing that annoyed you in the past.
Yeah, well, I feel like because I was playing the biotic class and they focused on wisdom, and everyone else, all their skills did something else outside of their class. So I was just sitting there with my high wisdom modifier, like, what do I do with this? I don't have anything to do with my wisdom modifier. So I was really happy when he added that because it gives you a better reason to increase your wisdom score.
Another good score in this game is the dexterity modifier.
Oh, that controls so many things. Some people would say that is actually the overpowered stat in the game.
Yeah.
Because that controls how many actions you get during turn, which we will actually talk about that in a little bit. and it also controls your accuracy for your weapons. So if you have a super high dexterity, the highest you can go is, I believe, a plus 10, because you can only have a maximum of 30 in the game. I'm pretty sure that's plus 10. Yeah, we'll just say that it is a plus 10. Yeah, it is a plus 10 now that I think about it. But that meant that you could have 10 actions, and then let's say you have a gun that shoots twice during one action. You now have 20 shots onto one target, which most certainly will end up with that target dying. Either that or you horribly botching in the middle and just losing everything. But that was fixed somewhat now with the... Before, there was no limit, so you could go up to a dexterity score of like 50 and have have 20 actions. So having 40 shots per turn with a gun that shoots twice during an action. That was one of our players, actually. That he was the reason why I fixed that. Before there was no limit to the stats, but there are now.
I think one of the players, he had a high dexterity score too, and he would just be like, I'm taking so much time, I'm just gonna end my turn right here and let other people do things.
Yeah.
He was nice about it.
Yeah, that was one of the guys. He was pretty cool. But God, the actions really messed us up. So I decided to go with something else. The actions are still there, so you still can take 10 actions if you want to. Or you can use an action and actually add to the BAB of one of your other actions. So let's say you have 10 actions, you have the max dexterity, and you decide to actually use 9 of those actions to add to the BAB of your one last action. That would mean that you get a plus 18 to your BAB.
And for people out there who've never played an RPG, what's a BAB?
BAB is base attack bonus. That would be your accuracy for your weapon in Primus Star. For others games, you would use your BAB plus another score. Sometimes it's like, for a melee weapon, it would be BAB plus your strength modifier to see if you can actually hit. But in this game, it is just your BAB. Dexterity contributes to your BAB, but BAB is the final score that you will look at for your accuracy.
Okay, so you don't add dexterity when you're shooting a gun?
No.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
You just add your BAB.
I thought you did.
That would be kind of OP.
I haven't played Primus Star in a long time.
That's
I've been
true.
doing a lot of art for this thing. I haven't been playing the game.
But we will be playing a session this Wednesday, though, so we'll see how that goes with the new rules.
With dexterity being such an OP, like you say, ability, what is the perk in taking the strength ability over dexterity?
Well, the thing with the strength ability is if you're using melee weapons. Dexterity, we're just talking about ranged weapons, which is the norm, I guess, for futuristic combat and space combat and things like that. But with strength, you can focus on, I guess, melee instead. You'll have to actually, move up to the targets using ranged weapons, and that can be a problem unless you have high DR or high AC or anything like that. DR being damage resistance, that will ignore the damage, and AC being armor class, which
And
would...
shielding.
And shielding, too. That's...
If you are a melee character, you should have a pretty good...
Yeah, you should have all of those things.
Yeah.
You should have a good AC, DR, and shielding. Just everything. Defend yourself out there. Speaking of which, it is very easy to die in this game. Very easy to die. Shielding would save your life. The shielding is it's a kinetic shield, not an actual, metal shield that you hold up in medieval combat. No, it is a kinetic shield over your body that protects you for a certain amount of HP until it gets destroyed, and then the damage will actually go onto your base HP. HP being health points. I don't know why we're having to describe all these terms, because I'm thinking that they probably know what all these...
Well, but you don't want to leave out the people who don't know them.
Yeah.
True.
Be first-time tabletop RPGers out there who know nothing about...
RPGers.
who know nothing about playing, Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, and then they come into this one for the first time, and they're just like, oh, this is cool, I enjoy this, but they don't know any of the terms. I was like that when I first started playing.
Speaking of that, though, in the book, we do have a thing in the beginning that actually goes over all of the common terms. So if you are one of those people, we got you inside the book, so there you go.
Well, I'd hope so.
What what were we talking about right before that? God, we just moved on to
It was,
a whole bunch of
strength.
melee.
Yeah,
strength. That's right. Yeah, strength would dictate how much damage you would do with a melee weapon. So you could actually cause massive amounts of damage with your strength modifier if you were able to actually get up to the target and hit them. With the strength, you still have to have points in dexterity to actually hit them. So there is that, but you can cause a whole lot of damage in one hit.
Doesn't melee attacks go through the shielding?
That as well. Melee attacks ignore shielding, so you damage them at their base right whenever you hit them. So there's no waiting around or anything like that. You just damage them straight away. There are also some melee weapons that actually damage them and the shielding. So.
All right, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, like the shock weapons, things like that. I don't think that's actually fixed in the rules yet. We'll have to look at the core rulebook after this. See, you're getting the behind the scenes right now. We're talking about working on the book right now. Dang. But yeah, that's the viable point for strength. What is...
A well-balanced character is the best character, though.
Yeah.
Not too well balanced, I might add. There was one guy who actually played Primus Star who put...
Did he do like completely even?
Yeah, it was even across the board.
Well, you need to be a little bit good in something, but balance it a little bit.
Yeah, he had a +1 modifier and everything.
Be good at whatever your class is supposed to be good at. That's typically what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, if you're a socialite, don't focus on big weapons.
I mean, they can still do it.
They can do it. Like, yeah, play with your class, right? Like, if you want to be someone who can talk to people, but you also want to be someone who can go out and use a big weapon, just be a socialite who has a lot of charisma, but also a lot of dexterity, balance those two. When I say well-rounded, I don't mean like put one in everything or keep all your things the same. I mean, like, focus on 2 or 3 stats to make yourself well-rounded. Don't put everything in strength or dex.
And then when you get enough credits, you can get enhancements to make you even better.
Credits being the money in the game. That's the term that we use for the money system. But enhancements, that actually is a big point because there used to be no enhancements. So the only way to increase your players' or your character's power was to level up. So there was no other way of actually doing anything with your character, which is a shame because most other RPGs have things like magic items or something like that. But since we're in the future and there's no really magic, well, we had to figure out something else, and that something else was enhancements and upgrades for weapons, actually. Because there are some upgrades in weapons that make it so that the BAB gets increased with them.
So, I know, wasn't there... Is it the scientist or isn't there a medic kind of tree in your game?
That would be... I believe that actually is the scientist.
Oh, I thought it was the biotic got the shaman thing.
Well, there are a few different courses that you can go with.
I was just wondering, like, I'm not sure about this, and you can go to hospitals in your game and you can get enhancements and stuff done, but if you have a medic in your group,
that would be the scientist. Yeah.
Can they make enhancements for you?
Yeah, that would be the scientist, but you would have to actually have the right, what would it be, like, I guess, lab equipment. You'd have to have the right equipment. The scientist would have to have the right equipment to actually enhance you or make the enhancements or make the upgrades or anything like that. But later on, like we were talking about with the scientists, they could make enhancements that aren't even supposed to be in the game. So they can make their own enhancements.
At the DM's discretion.
Yes, that is strongly advised. DMs make sure that your characters or your players aren't making crazy enhancements that break the entire game. Like enhancements that turn them into Cthulhu.
I don't know, they could be baby Cthulhus.
Maybe when they get high enough level.
Maybe.
You can leave it open, leave it open, but don't tell them exactly what it's gonna do. They're like, yes, let's put my project to the works, and they use it and it malfunctioned, and now they're a little baby squid.
Well, see, that's not even an enhancement, that's just entire gene splicing.
Maybe that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to give them themselves squid genes, become,
They're trying to be able to breathe underwater or something.
See, that would be an enhancement, a rebreather.
Yeah, and they turn them into a squid on accident.
No, that's actually an honestly really good enhancement.
What, you don't have a water breather thing in the game?
No. I didn't think about that. Because we're in space. There's no
There's
I mean,
water.
there's planets. You go to different
there
planets.
are planets with water, but I
yeah.
wasn't really thinking about that entirely. I was thinking of just space. Space as in space.
Anything we miss out, we're already thinking about expansions and stuff. If you know, for you guys when you like it and everything. So
If you like it. Hopefully you'll like it. Please like it.
Please give us money.
They'll like it. It's good enough.
Well, I mean,
have
they're already
confidence.
giving us money. The only people that can hear this is the
Yeah,
patrons.
that's true.
Thank you so much, our patrons.
Speaking
We
of
should,
which,
probably do our shout
I mean,
out now.
it is actually at that time. We can go ahead and do the shout out now. Since there's so few of you right now, we're actually going to go ahead and just shout out to all of you. So, people in the future, you've missed out. You should have been here earlier. What's wrong with you?
We're gonna shout out in the future too. Don't feel left out.
No, we're not. Well, this is a shout out to Adam Cruz, Herschel Moore, and Jim Smith. Thank you so much for donating the $20, and thank you for supporting us. Hopefully you'll continue to support us in the future as well, and hopefully you'll buy our products, because Primus Star will be coming out in the near future.
Probably early next year.
Early next year or end of this year. Somewhere around that.
Yeah,
Somewhere in that time. Because we still have to worry about a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah.
Yay.
We're getting all the paperwork filled out. And
Yay, lawyers. Well, that was a nice shout out, I think. Now back to your regularly scheduled program.
So you're talking about space travel and your forgetfulness to add underwater breathing.
Don't even bring up the rebreather anymore. I'm mad at myself now.
But what about the ships and like traveling in space? And there's also space combat too.
Yeah, the dogfights. I could talk about how this will make me seem even worse with the rebreather. Back then, there was basically nothing of that sort. It was all stuck on planets.
Yep. But we can't have a futuristic spacefaring adventure without space travel, so...
Yeah, you can buy your own ship. You can go around and travel through space. One interesting thing, though, that I would always look at whenever I looked through the spaceships that you could buy is the capital ships, because they're so huge. Because most of the time, parties are only 4 characters or less. Maybe a little bit more, but then you start to get into the territory of where you need more DMs because there are so many things going on at once and you need someone to micromanage stuff for you. But the capital ships, they have, I think the smallest one has around 20 rooms.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I barely did any space stuff when I played.
Yeah, most of the time I actually try and, again, this sounds horrible for me, I try to stay away from space stuff.
If you're a scientist and stuff, you can make your own ships, right?
Yeah.
Or an engineer, right?
Engineer could even do that. The only benefit of being the scientist is like, in the beginning, a glorified engineer. Until you get up to the higher level, the scientist won't really show their true colors. So if you are just thinking about the short game, engineer would be the way to go just to build things for your team. But if you're thinking about the long game, definitely scientist.
But wouldn't that make, like, engineers useless in the future?
Well, I mean...
What's the perk of being a high-level engineer?
Yeah, what's the perk of being a high-level engineer?
Man, you can repair things so fast.
I guess you repair what the scientist makes.
Yeah, basically. Because the scientist isn't really going to be worried about repair so much. They're going to be more worried about crafting.
So I guess if you have a ship, and you didn't really make the ship, you could have made the ship as an engineer, but even if you just bought it off the block and it's starting to malfunction, that would be an engineer's job, not a scientist's job.
Yeah, the scientist might have a little, few points in repair, but they're not going to have as much as an engineer would. The same thing with the engineer, they would have probably a lot of points in computer to possibly hack into different consoles. Okay. But that would be more of a rogue thing as well.
Engineer.
But like I was
rogue,
saying,
yeah.
rogue and engineer, they are kind of similar. A rogue engineer, I don't know if that would be a good multi-class or not, because they're so similar.
Let them play what they want to play.
I mean, yeah, they can play whatever they want to play, but I'm just thinking about this.
In the technical terms, is that the best?
Anyway, back to spaceships.
Yes, back to spaceships. But like I was saying, the capital ships, they're so large and in charge. The amount of
Wow.
weapons that you could put on them is pretty wonderful as well, because you can have, I believe the smallest one has 10 guns on it. But like I said, the teams, normal parties, are only up to 4 players. So how are you going to control 10 guns with only 4 players?
Well, that's where, if you're a socialite, you can recruit people, right?
Yeah, that's one thing that we were thinking
Just
about.
get
is
some NPCs on
DMs
there.
could start to get NPCs. I mean, what would really be cool is to have a whole adventure where the party actually isn't really, it's like a Starship Enterprise kind of thing, like a Star Trek thing. They're up in their bridge and everything, and everyone else is dealing with all the other stuff, but they're the ones that are in charge of the ship, and that would be an interesting adventure. I never really thought about that.
Yeah.
Dang it!
Maybe we'll
That's
do
something
that
you
on
can do in the
Wednesday.
future.
Oh no, because on Wednesday I already have something planned out.
Okay.
Speaking of which, testing things. So I did a horrible thing for testing most of my times with this game, where I would bring in a few, I guess, easy enemies for the beginning. Then at the end, whenever they were leveled up just a little bit, I would bring in one of the harder enemies that they couldn't have no hope of defeating, because I just wanted to see how the gap, I guess, between easy enemies and the really hard enemies. Players would always die. They would always die.
But you kind of knew that going in.
I knew that going in, but the players didn't, and they would get so upset because they spent all this time making their characters.
Making their backstory,
I mean,
bonding with them.
They are in a play test, though.
I know, I kept on telling them that they're in a playtest, so don't get too attached. I never told them to get too attached. That may have been on me.
Yeah.
That may have been my fault. But they should have known that their characters were most likely going to die, or at the very least, they weren't going to play them anymore because it's just a play test.
Yeah.
We're just testing out things. However, I never actually sent in the big enemies. The ones that, you know, are the highest level.
Well, I mean, if they couldn't beat the semi-big enemies, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but maybe later on we'll actually get to a point where we can have a normal battle. In fact, what we'll probably do is we'll just make characters higher level, and then
That'd be nice.
That's a good idea, just to
test
play
out the
test
higher levels.
Higher levels, yeah.
I'm tired of starting off at level 1.
yeah, I mean, mainly with that testing, it was just to see how the level up system worked and how the enemies would grow, like exponentially. But I think just to jump up to the higher levels and see how the bigger enemies go.
You should probably do that before we release the.
Oh,
yeah.
most definitely. I'm
Okay.
definitely going to do that before we release it, but I just haven't done it yet. Mainly because I was going off of the statistics that I would get from the early on tests to see how they would grow exponentially up to the higher level enemy. But I'm thinking that what I should do is just test the higher level enemy now and see how it fares against the highest level characters in a party.
Probably start at like level 15 or 10 or something. Or what is the max level? Was it 20 or 30?
30.
Okay, then
30.
yeah.
Most RPGs
Okay.
it goes up to 20, but this game goes up to 30 because of the subclasses, which is something completely different than classes. Well, not completely different.
They're not completely different, but it's more focused. So you can figure out what you want at the beginning, or you can just wing it and figure it out when you get to the level. But like, it's so that you can have a specialty. Every character is different. You know, you want to be unique.
Yeah. So, for instance, the soldier, once you get up to level 20, this is for all classes, but the soldier, once you get up to level 20, you can choose to be either a shock trooper or a commando. Whereas a shock trooper focuses on the melee side of fighting, the commando focuses on the ranged side of fighting. So whereas before the soldier was just a well-rounded fighter, now you can actually choose what path you want to go down. So that's always useful. For the mercenary, it's completely different though, because before they were actually focused on something, but now they're going to have 2 different focuses. So one is a focus on explosives and demolitions, I guess. That can always be fun because you can always blow up yourself. And the other one is more focused on, I think they're just more focused on rifles, so even more focus on the one thing that they were already focused on. So you could just be really good at shooting things.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
You want to kill anything.
Well, I mean, it depends on the kind of party you're in. That would be that would be horrible. A party filled with socialites and then one mercenary.
I don't know. That wouldn't be that bad. That'd be
That
their
sounds-
bodyguard.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Or
You just look intimidating.
Maybe there's like a political situation going on. They have their bodyguard mercenary.
Yeah, they have to go to
That
different.
goes behind the scenes and stops all the assassins from coming after
That
them.
makes me think of some adventures that I've thought of, like with a socialite, a last level adventure would actually to become a politician and win the vote of the galaxy and become one of the new council members in the Republic. Man, I'm just saying all this lore. We're not even talking about lore, but we're talking about rules. But in a later podcast, we might talk about lore.
Might.
We'll probably talk about lore.
Probably.
We will talk about lore.
There we go. I don't know how we could just skip over lore with, all these races and
And
classes.
especially how it began as just lore. Mm-hmm. With my ideas. Because, boy, it just began as lore. Let me tell you, it was terrible. Like we were saying before, it was terrible to play it in the beginning. Because all you could really see is your race and what they did in the past. Horrible representation of that race in a picture that I drew myself back in middle school. You're welcome. And then that was it. You made your character. Good job. Ready to play the game and not know what you're doing.
Yep. I'm glad
You
I
have to
didn't play
start
that.
somewhere.
My dad played that.
Did he encourage you to keep going with it?
Yeah, he encouraged me to keep going with a lot of things.
That's nice.
Yeah.
But I feel bad for him.
Why?
Because that beginning.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Just
kidding.
for what you put him through. I'm sure he was having fun.
I don't think so.
I'm sure he just wanted to play a game
He
with
put
you.
on a happy face. We didn't actually talk about the saving throws.
No, we didn't.
That's one thing. I think we actually skipped that talking point.
Yeah.
Honestly.
We were going off track a lot. I mean, we didn't even talk about battling in space. You just talked about ships a little bit and then...
I'm sorry. There's a lot of stuff to talk about in space. I mean, it's the thing that takes up the most of our universe is space.
If you guys didn't know, it's a space-based RPG.
No, it's not. It's planet-based. Rebreathers all the way. I'm talking to you scientists out there. Make rebreathers. But no, the combat, it's a lot different than ground combat. For ground combat, it's pretty straightforward. Each person has their own turn, their own actions. They shoot, move, all that stuff. And they have control of their body. Which, I mean, makes sense if you're on the ground. Unless you have a mind control thing on you or anything like that. But in space, the reason why I'm saying you have control of your body is because in space, you don't have control of the ship unless you're actually piloting the ship. So you might be inside the ship, but the pilot, he gets to decide where you're going and who's going to get the power of the ship, who gets to shoot, and things like that. So you might be a mercenary who's inside of one of the weapons on the ship, and the captain might decide, you know what, we need more energy to our thrusters, so weapons are inactive now. Sorry about that. And you're just going to sit there and wait for weapons to be active again so you could shoot the guy who's shooting at you. Or not even another ship. It could be just a meteor.
I mean, in that situation, though, like, your captain's just making bad calls.
I mean, he might be making bad calls. He might be making a really good call. He might be saying that, hey, we need to move out of this place, so sit tight. I'll be right back.
This guy's shooting at us, and I'm gonna turn off our guns.
He's got direct power to the movement stuff.
Yeah, that's another thing that you could be low on power, so he doesn't want anyone to shoot anymore. He doesn't want the guns to take up any more energy, so instead he switches the power over to other things so that he could use like a hyperdrive function. So he could just warp out of there instead of having to fight these guys. Because you might have a ship that is horrible. Just horrible shit. One game actually for playtesting, we were testing out dogfights. One of the ships that they were on, which was the only ship that they had, got out of there with only 1 HP.
Was that wasn't with me, was it?
No.
Okay, I was about to say, I don't remember that.
It was on Discord. They got out with
Oh my gosh.
1 HP. And then they made it to a space station, and they couldn't land properly, and they destroyed their ship outside the space station.
Well, at least they made it.
Sort of.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
It was the worst thing. Well, it was hilarious, though, because there were other people that were waiting to join in, so there was only 2 people on the ship, and they got to hear their adventure as they crashed their ship into the one place that would be safe. And destroy everything. Yeah, that's space combat, pretty much.
How is, like, okay, so if you're in space, like, can you get out of the ship and fight? Like...
Yes, actually, that was a popular tactic for one of the playtesters. He was playing as a robot, and as a robot, you don't need to breathe.
Yeah, so they're probably the best option to go outside on the ship and try to shoot people.
Or, as what he did, fling himself outside of the ship onto the other ship, and then burrow his way into the ship and kill everybody on board.
Then you have another ship.
Yes, unless you're that same person and you decide to blow up the ship to prepare yourself back to the other ship.
I remember that.
That's always fun.
But how does, like, if you get out in space, right, and you're floating around, like, let's say, like, someone who isn't a reser gets out, right, and they're in their space
Bad
suit.
news bears.
And
spacesuit. Okay.
Yeah, they're in their space suit, and
with
they're
an oxygen tank.
Yeah, and they're floating around, and then the other ship, for some reason, they get out, and they're all in there. So how does movement work in space?
If you have a jetpack, you can move.
Okay, so you'd need a jetpack.
If you don't have a jetpack, you'll have to actually describe how you're propelling yourself into space. So maybe if you're next to a wall, you could just say, hey, I kick off this wall and just go towards them. It would be...
You can't use your guns to propel you. You shooting your gun at nothing.
You couldn't use a normal gun. Well, actually, no, I guess you could. Because it uses explosives, so it'll just propel that. It wouldn't really work that well.
Yeah, it'd probably be really slow.
You could probably also tie ropes to the ship, and you could, like, use the rope as, like, a movement thing with the ship a little bit.
One thing that would work, though, is the laser weaponry.
Yeah.
Because that's focused on light.
Or a fire extinguisher.
Well, that's kind of like that's kind of like a jetpack.
Besides that, I mean,
if you're going outside in space suits, you probably have an engineer or a scientist on your thing, so you should probably just get them to make you a jetpack.
You can buy jetpacks.
That's true.
You can buy spacesuits and oxygen tanks. So what does that mean that a scientist would be on your team?
I guess you could. Oh, you just have to make money then.
You hear that, scientists? You're useless. We just buy everything.
I don't know.
I don't know about that.
I mean, getting money is still something you have to work for.
One cool thing that a scientist could do is actually, instead of building a jetpack all on its own, is actually putting a jetpack into the armor of your crew members so that they could just always have a jetpack.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Instead of using oil or fuel or anything like that, it actually uses energy from the armor. So you can just move around like that.
What happens if your energy goes out while you're wearing the armor?
Well, all that stuff
Is it harder to
doesn't work.
move?
No, it's still normal to move. It's just
Okay.
you can't use anything anymore.
Okay.
So, like for your upgrades, one of them is a Tesla armor. That makes it so that there's a 50% chance to destroy any bullet or anything that's about to hit you. So if you run out of energy for that armor, well, you lose your Tesla armor. So, good luck. Well, I mean, you still have your AC and everything, so that's still good. But going back to space combat, I guess we kind of covered everything with that, besides the engineer, because that's one thing. In space combat, one thing is that there are two, I guess really several different types of hit points, but I'm just going to say two, just to, I guess, label them in different scenarios. But one would be the hull of the ship, so that's the base ship, that is actually the HP of the ship itself. Then the other one is the HP of each room. So you could damage the cockpit, or you could damage the thrusters of the ship, or damage rooms inside. So let's say there is a med bay on the ship, and you decide to damage that. Well, guess what? Now anyone in the ship can't heal themselves. Good job. And if you decide to damage the thrusters, then they lose 50% of their control, which is also their AC of trying to not get hit. Then if you damage their cockpit and the thrusters, then they lose all of their AC.
How does AC work in space?
AC, it's instead of a set number like on the ground for your character. So let's say you have a character AC of 21. You can't roll anything for that. It is just 21. But for the ship, whoever's a pilot, it goes off of their control. So let's say you have a control skill of 10. So now you would roll a d20 and then add the 10, and that's your AC for that round. It changes each round for each captain that's fighting.
That's
So,
interesting.
Yeah.
And when you say round, you just mean as long as you're in that ship on that one trip, right? If
No. During space combat. So each round will be 5 seconds.
So you mean as soon as initiative is rolled?
As soon as initiative is rolled for the first round, you roll the control to find out the AC of each captain. You fight. Once all turns and actions are used up, then it's the next round and you roll again. Until everyone on the battlefield is either retreating or dead. Or destroyed. I don't know, you might be fighting space robots.
That's true.
I mean,
that's a lot more realistic.
Space robots flinging at you, trying to burrow into your ship and kill you all. That about covers the space combat, though. One other thing, though, is if you're an engineer, what we were talking about earlier is you can repair the rooms, or if you're feeling gutsy, or if you're just a reser, go out into space and start to repair the ship itself, which can be difficult.
From the outside?
Yeah, because that's the only way to repair the whole of the ship is to
yeah.
actually go outside and start to repair the ship.
You can't burrow your way through the ship and do it from the other side.
No, you cannot. But it would be difficult, especially during combat, because now you might get shot by the weapons that are causing hundreds of points of damage, which can kill you instantly.
That's just as important a job, though. All your team is out there fighting those guys, and you're on the ship like, don't fall, don't fall.
You're holding on for dear life with your screwdriver and your hammer, wondering how you're even holding on anymore.
As you float off into space.
Figuring out that you're not actually holding on, you're just thinking that you are.
You're just looking at your hammer wrench like, crap.
It's time to fix space.
I find you much later after you built an empire for yourself.
But you could always roll reflex, which is the next thing that we're going to be talking about, as saving throws whenever you're out in space to ignore the explosive radius of the giant bullets that are coming towards you whenever you're repairing the ship. Reflex is used to defend yourself against explosives or anything like that, or anything that the DM might throw at you. A falling rock, I don't know, something like that. A bursting pipe, that could be something. A pipe that bursts out and then steam, and I don't know what else would be in there. Fire, hot liquid, magma.
Hot gases.
Hot gas. Oh, that's steam.
Okay.
Other gases.
I guess poisonous gases.
Yeah, poisonous.
Rebreather. Come full circle. There's also fortitude and will. These saves might sound kind of familiar. Most RPGs use them. But fortitude is used to, I guess, defend yourself against poisons, things like that, or anything. I don't know, what else?
How well you can walk when you're drunk.
Well, I mean, that's defense against poisons.
How well you hold your alcohol or your drugs.
True, that's a common role.
It'd probably be,
especially for socialites.
Be how well you're holding up if you're bleeding too, right?
That's right. It's how well you can actually stay alive. So let's say you get knocked out, it's if you can actually stabilize from your bleeding. So instead of just dying, you can actually stabilize your bleeding and just be knocked out, and benefiting your team by not dying. Not doing anything else, but you're not dying.
Or if someone hits you hard enough and you don't want to be staggered, that's another thing.
Yeah, true for combat maneuvers. Though that's more of a combat maneuver defense and bonus thing. So if they're trying to trip you, combat maneuver defense is what you would roll, and combat maneuver bonus is what they would roll. And if you... Oh, actually, I don't think that you roll the defense at all. I can't remember.
Is it just a set number?
I think it's just a set
I think
number.
it's a set number.
I think it's 10
Yeah,
plus whatever points you have into combat maneuver bonus.
Whoever's trying to grab you has to roll, and then they just have to beat your defense.
Yeah, they just have to beat your defense. It's sort of like AC. But if they try to trip you and they succeed, then congratulations, you're on the ground. prone. You can't really defend yourself anymore. Well, I mean, you can, kind of, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's lower AC. Unless you're one person who actually made it so that he could defend better on the ground than if he was on his feet.
That's just good planning.
His dexterity was really low, wasn't it?
Yeah, his dexterity was really low, so his AC suffered. But if you're on the ground, then you don't use dexterity. So he lost his negatives and he gained the bonuses. And he could actually defend himself. So best thing for combat for him was to, as soon as combat started, just lay down. Lay down and start to shoot things.
Oh, that would be kind of good for like a sniper or something, you know, someone who should lay down to use their gun.
There you go, snipers. Have horrible dexterity so you can't shoot anything.
That's true.
Anyway, Will saves now. You didn't talk about Will saves.
I was getting there.
Well, hurry up.
What do you mean hurry up? We still got time. Some time. Like, what was it, 4 minutes?
I just don't want you to go off tangent and talk about ship battles or something.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't even gonna talk about ship
Well,
battles.
I don't know. You could
We've
be
crossed that bridge.
You guys are
okay?
going off on a tangent right now.
Exactly.
Stop.
Let's talk about Will.
Will saves are for mind affecting things. It can actually be used for socialites. Well, against socialites. So if a socialite's trying to get you to do something that you don't want to do, like give them all of your money. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Natalie. You can use Will.
I needed money.
You can use Will to ignore them and just say no. Or that is actually one thing with the mechanics that I changed with socialites. If you actually defend against the socialite well, you can do a counter attack for socialism. Not socialism. No, not socialism. I mean for the social encounter. No politics.
Unless it's space politics.
The Republic, the Syndicate, but that's all in lore. We'll talk about that later in another podcast. But you could counterattack the socialite and do your own social check, and then you might actually get them to give you all of their money instead. But then if you fail, then the socialite can do a counterattack on you. It can just go back and forth.
Natalie,
So you should be a great socialite.
So
It's the best class.
I'm just imagining now a socialite with talking to another socialite, and they just keep on going back and forth.
Just a debate.
Just
It's a whole game of debating each other.
another adventure. Just a whole thing full of socialites. There you go.
Seems like socialites like the funnest class to play right now because we keep talking about it.
I think my favorite class, if I were to play the game actually, and not just be the DM constantly.
He loves it.
I do. But I think my favorite class would probably be the scientist, because I'll get to make things that I should have made in the game, like a rebreather.
Socialite just we obviously are making it sound fun because we like the role-playing aspect of the game, but if you're not even into the role-playing aspect, you just like to go into beat-em-ups, you know, it's perfect for that too. Be a soldier or a, what was the other one?
Mercenary.
Yeah.
What was the other class that I don't even think about, because socialite is clearly the best?
That's not my cup of tea, but if you wanted that, I've seen it happen and it works, so.
Go through like a hack and slash thing and use melee weapons like we were talking about. One of those melee weapons being what was it, an arc axe or something like that? I can't even remember, but it's basically an axe with 2 nodes that have electricity running through the current, and instead of an axe head, it's just electricity that you chop through things with.
You could be like a horror villain.
Yeah, there you go. A futuristic horror villain that's hiding out in a derelict ship, waiting for people to come in.
Okay, so what stats do you need for these these fortitude, reflex, and will saves?
That is one thing as well. Yeah, I forgot about that. For most RPGs, what they do is that they have a set, I guess.
They just have one thing
Yeah,
that affects them.
It's the stat, and then also based off of the class,
yeah.
you get a certain number of points that are put into that saving throw, but you can't I guess, allocate those points. It's in there. You can't decide or anything. It's just based off of your class. But Primus Star, it's all about your own imagination and rules.
And rules.
But what you would do is, say you want a really high fortitude, well, you're going to make it so that you have a high constitution and high strength, because those control your fortitude, I believe.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. A reflex would be your dexterity and your intelligence, so up those two. And I really like how reflex is dexterity and intelligence, because if you can't really act fast, well, you can think fast. And then will is your wisdom and your charisma, because it's all about mind affecting effects. So if a socialite's trying to get to you, well, of course charisma is going to be a part of that. It's going to be all about you actually thinking through the situation, you thinking through, do I need to give them money? Do I want to give them money?
You would think intelligence would be in will, though, because it's like a mind thing.
Well, I think that...
Well, wisdom. That's why it's...
Yeah,
It's
I
because
know.
it's not something you're directly thinking so much as something you're reacting to. It's because wisdom is all about reactions without thinking, pretty much.
You can think of, I took it from Greek philosophy with the whole battle of wills, or a power of will. That's what wisdom is. It's supposed to be how passionate you are about yourself and how passionate you are about upholding what you think is right. So if someone else's wisdom is higher than your wisdom, well, they're going to be able to change your ideas or something like that. Or
easier, yeah.
or if they can just talk to you better. Like a socialite.
You can have like no intelligence, be a socialite with a good wisdom and charisma, and be dumb as hell and like convince people that your way is the right way.
And that's why being a socialite is the best class.
Well, I remember that it was actually a thing. I was playtesting, and there was one guy who was going to become a socialite, and he was min-maxing crazily. One of the playtesters who does that, and he was making it so that his character had a super high charisma, but a 1 in intelligence. A 1. So
Can you speak with that low in intelligence?
that's what we were talking about. It was like, no, you literally have the intelligence of someone who can't actually convey their own reasoning. That you can't speak to anyone. You're really good at speaking, but you just can't get it out. So, but that's actually in the rules. That's based off of DM's discretion. So you could be a DM that's like, oh yeah, he speaks. He just speaks poorly, but he speaks poorly in a way that people like it.
he like mutters. He's like,
It's not even muttering. It's more of the whole like caveman speak.
Well,
Yeah, caveman speak.
I was thinking like he's saying words and he's understanding of it. Everyone's like staring at him like.
Well, see, I think that would be a low charisma at that point.
Would it be a low charisma?
I think that would be a low charisma.
Yeah, I think that'd be low charisma.
Because low intelligence would mean that you can't actually think about what you're saying, so you're just speaking in a caveman sense. But then everyone likes how you're saying it in a caveman sense, so they
Guess you could be like roaring in passion or something.
You roar in passion. Everyone gives you their money. They love you. Oh man.
But should we wrap this podcast up?
I guess it's getting to that time now. Well, this has been the first podcast for Evil Pig Productions. I have been the lead designer, Jonathan Moore.
The lead artist, Megan Slay.
The lead graphic designer, Natalie Thompson.
And it has been a pleasure to speak to you all. We'll be back with you, I guess, next month.
If you want us to talk about anything, they can talk in our Discord, right?
They can leave questions in the Discord chat, yes. Only if you're a patron, of course. But, of course, if you're a patron, you're the only ones that are able to hear this. You lucky people.
So if you have any questions for us, or if you want to expand on anything, you just write it in the Discord, and we'll look at it for next month, and we'll include it in our podcast. So
Yeah, and we'll talk about things like that. Next podcast, we might talk about lore. Maybe a little bit. But I guess that all depends on you guys. So go ahead and leave out the questions, and
Isn't there going to be a poll for them to vote?
yeah, we'll do another poll, right?
I guess.
Hopefully you guys can make a an anonymous decision.
And hopefully you can actually choose unanimous, not anonymous. It's already pretty much anonymous. But hopefully you can make a unanimous decision and not choose 3 different things and tie them all so that we have to actually choose for you. Because that's not fun.
I don't know, it was fun for us.
I mean, I guess because we got to choose.
Yeah.
But what we'll most likely do is we'll take out the one that we just talked about today and we'll add in a new thing. So I guess this time it'll be lore, if you want us to focus on how the lore developed of the game, along with the other things that we didn't talk about today, and we'll see how that changes.
Pick character design, or the race design, or the art design, and I'll be able to talk more.
Says the lead artist.
Yeah, lead artist.
Lead artist here. Talk about the thing that I did. All right, well, we'll talk to you later.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.